Kenya's Raila Odinga has lost his fifth bid for presidency after securing around 48% of the votes. His rival, William Ruto, won by just more than 50%. This has triggered protests on the streets in some parts of the country following the release of the official results. Joining us now to tell us what is next for Kenya is Africa analyst Vincent Obsie. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us on Newzroom Afrika. This is an election that has been marred by delays, scuffles and allegations of vote rigging, and the outcome has been announced. In the aftermath of that outcome, what is your sense of the political climate? Because we understand that there have been protests in parts of Kenya.
Thank you for having me, Mpo. So firstly, I think it's very important for Kenyans to keep the peace in the aftermath of this election, as we do not want to bring back the ghost of the 2007-2008 elections, in which violence led to ICC investigation cases. So we don't need Kenya to go down that road again. However, what this does tell us is that there's a lot of contestation and discomfort from the people. It seems that while the elections occurred, the personalities involved in the elections are not satisfied, perhaps, with the outcomes, as both Odinga and Ruto had, at different points in time, claimed that they would get 60% of the vote share.
And it was quite a close contest because William Ruto is at 50.49% and Raila Odinga at 48.85%. Speaking to how it was a hotly contested election, you make mention of what happened in 2007-2008. I mean, over 1,000 people were killed. That reiteration of peace is the message we've been hearing in the aftermath. What measures are being made to contain that peace, to ensure that that violent outbreak doesn't become a reality?
Well, all local actors are currently calling for peace. Also, moreover, Kenyans need to, there needs to be more done to remind Kenyans that according to the Kenyan Constitution, according to their electoral rules, you need 50+1 to avoid a potential runoff election. And so we will see what happens from there, because the potential for a runoff still remains if Mr. Ruto's margin remains at that 50.4, 50.5%.
What just looking at the key messaging that we've heard and seen over the past few weeks over the candidates, what is it that stood out and allowed for William Ruto's win?
I think that there's a lot of distrust towards the quote-unquote old guard of the politics in Kenya. And Mr. Ruto is quite a charismatic figure in his own right, presenting himself almost as this upstart by his own bootstraps type of personality against the Odinga, Mr. Odinga, who has now entered into what some might see as an alliance with former President Kenyatta, now former President Kenyatta, in supporting him against his former vice president. Mr. Kenyatta supporting Mr. Odinga against Mr. Kenyatta's own former vice president, Mr. Ruto.
And we heard Ruto speaking to essentially, a message that would have allowed him some sort of credibility and appeal across several communities, speaking about the hustler mode and relatable slogans which speak to perhaps a big group of young people who are looking for changes. I mean, he made mention of how generational change is needed, and now is the time to ensure it. How has that resonated with the young people?
Interestingly, we had a lot of voter apathy from the young people in Kenya during the course of this election. So while very revolutionary statements of hustler mode and this generational change idea have been made by Mr. Ruto, there's a lot of apathy from the youth in terms of what they have seen and what they will see as a result of the outcomes of this election. We've been here before, some might say, similar to how in South Africa we have our own youth who are somewhat apathetic when we go to the polls. So I think what we're seeing is this, yes, Mr. Ruto's point about generational change is very important, But this is not just a matter of generational change. This is a matter of do the youth actually think that generational change is in fact possible? Or generational change can occur and take some of that power away from the old guard and these dynastic families and bring it into their hands for their own benefits.
And besides the delays and analysis on what the messaging will mean in the long term, we've also heard about an electoral commission official who was found dead after he went missing on August 11th. Is there anything to link? Is there any sort of link to the elections? What are police saying about this?
Currently, that's an ongoing investigation. However, this relates to the issue of violence that we're seeing as an aftermath of the elections. One could make a general causal connection to it. However, I think highlighting that and saying that completely marring this election's results of that would be wrong to do. But again, this goes back to what I said earlier. There is a need to maintain the calm and the peace in this and not allow things to get to a point where we're reliving the ghost or revisiting the ghost of 2007, 2008. The issues and the charges that came as a result of that are still being fought out in courts now. So I think it's very important that we see this as a warning to call all actors back and say, listen, let's look at how we can work together to maintain a peaceful resolution to this. I know that 4 out of the 7 commissioners walked out at the announcement of the results, and the chairperson announced the result without his commissioners. So this is an issue that is a bit of a weird space in terms of the constitutionality of it, but we need to make sure, especially for Kenya and the future of Kenya, and what Kenya is for the East African bloc, we need to ensure and maintain effective peace in the aftermath of these elections.
And effective peace will be a very important task that will lie on the shoulders of Mr. William Ruto. Talk to us about some of the most crucial factors that he'll need to consider as he goes into the hot seat.
Well, one of the things he's going to really need to consider is the question of Kenya's position in the world and geopolitically. I know that both the Chinese and the Americans have been looking and keeping an eye on this election. He's also going to need to do something about the debt. He's also going to need the will and the gusto to reevaluate and go into some of these debt agreements and public debt agreements with foreign debtors, lenders, and really, if he agrees and goes through what he said about, he will review and repeal some of the agreements that have been made that are not beneficial. I'm looking forward to seeing that. He's going to need to revise that and review that. He's going to need to really do a lot on the economy side to bolster employment and make young Kenyans, those young Kenyans that he inspired with this idea of hustler mode, to make them see the potential for them to have opportunity in this new generational change Kenya that he's spoken about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for weighing in on this discussion. That is Africa analyst Vincent Obsie speaking to the Kenyan Raila Odinga's loss to his 5th bid for presidency and also some of the challenges that lie ahead for William Ruto.